The sprinkler effect myth, which is Etsy very evenly proportions out your impressions between and among the people, right? So Scott, if you and I launch the same product, Etsy's going to give you 50 impressions and they're going to give me 50 impressions because they want everybody to get the same number of impressions and it's going to be happy. And so the reason you're not getting as many impressions as you did last week is because Etsy's just giving them to somebody else.
So some Etsy sellers think that Etsy is ignoring them and they're just not showing their listings. And they're thinking to themselves, it's just because I don't have a well-established store, or they just don't like me. I'm new. And I'm here to tell you that that's probably not the reason why. There's actually some simple things to consider and to really see, are they in fact ignoring you because they just don't like your products or like your listings? I'm here to tell you, I've got some good news for you. That's not the reason. That's not the reason. Let's go over a few here. So the very first thing is you might just be missing the right keyword. So my little homework for you would be this. Do a search, okay, and see not just, okay, I'm going to see what ones are coming up, what items are coming up. I want you to do a search, and then I want you to do some product research using a tool like Everbee. All right. Now, they do have a free version of it. You get 10 free searches a month. If you go to brandcreators.com/Everbee, you can try it out and test it out. And those 10 searches you can use. But I would do that. I would run those numbers to see, okay, in fact, are the sales coming through certain keywords? And the way that I would do this is not necessarily by the keyword number that Everbee gives me, but by the sales numbers. And then what I would want to do is I would want to look at the top sellers and I'd want to see, is my keyword that I'm targeting the same as theirs? Or are there keywords that they're using that I'm missing? So I would look at the title. I would look at the tags. Again, in Everbee, they show you this stuff. And from there, I'd want to maybe look at my images and go, maybe that's why I'm not getting any sales. But if I'm just looking at the traffic side of things, like why am I not being seen? The problem might lie in the title or the tags, because that is what Etsy is looking at as far as optimization. Now, there are some other things, even if you have those in place, okay? If you have those in place now and you're like, yep, I've got all that stuff. Check, Scott, I did that part of the homework. And I'm like, all right, cool. So now what we got to do is we got to say, all right, is there sufficient demand? Now, for you, you might be like, yeah, it's selling great. It's a bestseller. And I'm like, all right, how many is it selling? You're like 5 a month. That might be our problem too, because you've got all this optimization stuff done, but your target is really low. But to you, it might be high because 5 sales a month on that product might be good. Now, that might be an extreme example, but you understand my point. We have to look at the demand to make sure that what you're wanting is actually achievable. All right. And again, using a tool like Everbee, that will help you do that. You might be saying like, okay, yeah, that's all good. There's a lot of sales coming through. I checked off both of those boxes. Everything checks out, but you aren't being seen. Just you. Are you getting any sales? Scott, no, that's why I'm watching this video. Okay. So what do we got to do? We got to get sales. And here's why. Of course, you're like, yeah, well, Scott, of course, that's obvious. I want sales. No, the algorithm wants sales. Etsy, in order to rank you, to get you traffic and to make you visible, they are going to push products that are getting sales. They're not just going to magically have you appear in the top of the searches if you're a new listing and if you don't have any sales. They're going to look at all of the ones that are selling and they're converting the highest, and they are going to rank them above everyone else. So if you have those two things checked off that we just went over and you're not getting sales, we need to get sales. And you're probably asking now, like, well, how do I do that? I've covered this on the YouTube channel. I'll link it up in the description so you guys can watch that, but it's our launch process. And our launch process is really simple, but a lot of people are a little afraid to do it because you're not going to make any money on the launch. And you're not supposed to, because what we're doing is we're driving sales. So what we do is we lower the price of our item to break even or just a hair above. And from there, we'll do that for 5 to 7 days. Then we're going to run Etsy ads, maybe $5 a day. And then we are going to drive traffic to our listing and hopefully start getting some sales. And if we're not getting the sales that we want, well, it might be a review issue and it might take a little bit longer to be able to get those sales. So that's where we're going to be getting sales, maybe slowly, and building up the reviews. And over time, that will help us convert higher as we're moving through this. The last thing is maybe you're getting sales, but you're not getting as many as you think that you should be. Or maybe you were getting sales and now you're not getting sales and you're wondering why. Negative reviews. If you have had a negative review or a couple of negative reviews, that can tank your sales. And it's really hard a lot of times to get out of that because it's not Etsy's decision to look at that and go, oh, they got a negative review. We're going to rank them lower. It's all about the conversion. It's all about the conversion rate that they gave you or that they're giving you. Okay. They're basing their ranking on how well it sells on a regular basis. If 100 people see this and you're converting at 2% and they're showing to other products, other listings, the same amount of views and they're converting at 4%, they're going to rank the 4% higher than yours. When you have a negative review, it might take you down to a 0.5% conversion rate. Now that just brought you down lower. So those are some things that you have to look at and you have to run your product through these different areas to see where is the actual problem. So Chris, anything that I left out there as far as why Etsy might be ignoring your SEO?
I think you destroyed the comments a little bit with that one because we're getting over and over again, Scott. What my new favorite way to refer to this is from Elysian, who said, the sprinkler effect myth, which is Etsy very evenly proportions out your impressions between and among the people, right? So Scott, if you and I launch the same product, Etsy's going to give you 50 impressions, then they're going to give me 50 impressions because they want everybody to get the same number of impressions and it's going to be happy. And so the reason you're not getting as many impressions as you did last week is because Etsy's just giving them to somebody else. Why? Because they just like proportioning them out that way. Or, if we're using the sprinkler effect, right? The sprinkler passed you by and then it's going to come back and it's going to sprinkle over. It's going to fairy dust you with some impressions. But as we've talked about in the past, Scott, what Etsy cares about is two things. Are you relevant? And if you're relevant, how likely are you to convert? Now, obviously, it's substantially more complex than that. And they look at more than two factors and how they all factor in. But when we really distill it down, they're all just different ways of understanding. Are you relevant? And are you the most likely person to turn into a sale? If we can focus on those two things, it's not about finding the perfect mix match of keywords. It's not about should I use commas or shouldn't I use commas? It's not about keyword stuffing. And if you're doing keyword stuffing, you shouldn't be. And that's a whole other video that we can get into. But if we are relevant and we are getting sales, we will continue to get more impressions up until there aren't any more impressions to give. And I know sometimes, Scott, it can feel like Etsy 1 week gives us a whole bunch of impressions and the next week we're not getting any impressions. And is it because I'm not getting as many sales? No, it's because that's just natural traffic behavior, especially as we get into the end of June, beginning of July, right? We're getting into what is traditionally the slowest part of the year for e-commerce, even slower than January and February. Why? Because no one in America is at home. They're all on vacation. Their kids are out of school. They're not paying attention. They're not buying things online. So if we start to see a dip right now, it's likely to be seasonality. And after you've been in this game for a little while, you're going to start to see, hey, every July, end of June, beginning of July, my impressions go down. As soon as people start looking for stuff again, beginning of August, middle of August, they start to come right back up and my sales come up along with them. It's not that there's a grand conspiracy or a really complicated thing that we have to understand. It's all about getting sales and traffic. And if we can get sales and traffic because we are relevant to the keywords that people are actually using, then we're going to get as many impressions as possible. And Etsy's going to stop ignoring us. Etsy's job at the end of the day, Scott, is one thing: sell as many things to as many people as possible. And if we can help them do that, they're going to help us sell more. If we're not helping them do that, then they have no reason to just sprinkle some impressions over top of our listing. So we have to be selling things that people want, marketing them in a way that makes sense to people. If we can do those two things, we're good to go.
Chris, let me ask you this real quick. I know that you dove deep into Josh Silverman's report and also his statement about SEO. Can you share that in like a minute and let us know, like, what does Etsy actually care about with SEO?
Yeah. So the two biggest things that Etsy cares about are, one, are you relevant? So do you have some keywords that someone might use or that are similar to what the person typed in? If you're relevant, then you go into the bucket with everybody else that's relevant for that same search, that same user search. The next step here, after they get past that, are you relevant? Are you not? Swipe left, swipe right, Tinder test, the appearance test. The only really thing that they're looking at after that, Scott, is how likely are you to lead to a sale? Why? Because that's Etsy's job. As a search engine, their job is to serve up the answer to your question. As the buyer, your question is, show me the product. Can you show me the product that I want to buy? And that is their job. So if you are showing Etsy that you are more likely to convert than the other people who are relevant, they're going to rank you higher. And it's not to say that they might not move some people around and test some different things and that ads don't play a role in this. But at the end of the day, it's all about relevance and the likelihood for you to convert.